Moisson Montréal?
My name is Maggie Borowiec. I'm the director. Let me start over again. My name is Maggie Borowiec. I'm the director of philanthropy at Moisson Montréal.
Perfect. Thank you, Maggie. So yesterday when we were talking, you were mentioning that the supply chain is affecting the surplus, leading to a lack of food availability for Moisson and donors who receive from Moisson. Would you be able to just go into this a little bit again?
Yes, absolutely. We're hearing from a lot of our regular food donors that they have very little, if any, surplus food right now. They are struggling even to fill their orders from stores, from their regular clients. So there's not much extra that they have to spare, because normally what they donate to us is things that they have in surplus in order to reduce food waste. But right now, there's just so many shortages in many food categories, and we're seeing that especially in terms of non-perishable foods. The stocks are just really low, and it's not just a problem affecting Moisson Montréal. It's something we're hearing from a lot of other food banks, not just in Quebec, but even across the country.
Would you be able to state what stores Moisson receives food from?
There's not a lot of, most of the donations we receive are not at the store level. It's really more from food producers, wholesalers, and further up the food chain. We do also have a program of meat recovery from supermarkets, and all the brands are participating in it, be it Metro, IGA, Super C, Adonis, all the stores, the Provigos, the Maxis, all the IGAs, they're all participating in the program, and they've been very generous with us for a number of years to give us their surplus meat, and they continue to help us out tremendously. But that's not a big portion of our overall food. That's retailers account for a minority of the overall donations that our food bank receives.
Thank you for explaining. So could you go into a little bit about how some of your donors are experiencing difficulties, a little bit more just regarding food shortages?
Well, what they're telling us is it's a combination of lack of manpower, really labor shortages that is prevalent in a number of industries, and the food industry is included, but also logistics challenges in terms of the entire supply chain. So it's a procurement issue that we're seeing that everyone is experiencing right now.
Thank you. And at your time at Moisson, is this the worst you've seen in regards of lack of access to surplus food in the city?
I wouldn't say that, because actually over the years, since the pandemic, the quantities have risen a lot in terms of the volumes. But that's because the demand has grown a lot. Before the pandemic, we were actually in a situation where the economy was doing really well in Montreal, and we were seeing a downward trend in the number of people accessing food banks, asking for food aid. So things were really going in the right direction before the pandemic. And when the pandemic hit, there was suddenly a huge wave of first-time food bank users. So the demand just exploded, and as the pandemic, sort of the worst of it was behind us, it improved a little bit, but it was nowhere near going back to the pre-pandemic level. So it's still, there's a new high that's been reached in terms of the demand, and it just, we haven't been able to, on the supply side, to catch up to it, because it's been very tough. So in terms of the mismatch between what we're able to offer and what we're taking in, this is one of the toughest periods I've seen. But we have to remember that before the pandemic, the volumes weren't nearly as big. For example, last year we distributed about we distributed 17 million kilos of food, and this was really exceptional quantities for us. So it was a value of nearly $100 million worth of food overall that we distributed. This was the highest that Moisson had ever distributed.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is, yes. And if I go back, to 2016, 2017, it was about 80 million. So that's a big jump in just a couple of years. $80 million worth of food back then.
Okay. No, it's good to know the comparison. That's a massive jump. Wow.
So just in 5 years, we saw a 25% rise in how much we were distributing.
Is there anything else that I didn't ask? I know you're limited to what you can say, but just anything else that you want to share, or just maybe you recommend I look into when putting this story together?
Well, so, Savannah, I think it's really important to raise awareness, because what we're seeing also is that with today's job market, there's a lot of turnover. And yes, overall, the food industry is having trouble to just meet the demand from their customers, so they don't have a lot of surplus. But there are still some companies that do, and maybe some of them are not aware that there are food banks who are ready and willing to very quickly pick up any surplus food that they have, and that this can be used for a good cause. So just to raise awareness of that, anyone maybe who's working in the food industry to raise awareness within their own company, there's really a lot that they can do to help to remind people, to sensitize them that if you have food that is still good to eat, and you need to get rid of it because it's too close to the best before date, we can act very quickly. It's a matter of days from the time that we get the call to the time that it will be on someone's plate. So for us, it's not a terrible thing to have a short best buy date versus some of the producers, the other suppliers. For them, it might be just too late for them to sell it. But for us, it's not too late, and when in doubt, just give us a call at Moisson Montréal, and if they have a donation of at least one pallet of food or other products, hygiene products, anything you find in your typical grocery store, we are very willing to take it, and it will make a huge difference in people's lives.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Savannah.
Thank you again. I'll keep in touch about the release, and if there's anything else you want to add, don't hesitate to email me.